You ran straight for the bus stop and embarked on time, dressed in comfortable athletic wear, having changed out of your sidekick outfit back at the agency. As far as you were aware, Todoroki had arranged an impromptu dance session after work, having decided that an activity outside of the job would be fun after a few months of being apart from each other. While on the bus, you smiled to yourself, wondering if it was that last mission that made his mind up about this. You remembered the look in his eye when the two of you were alone afterwards. You pulled out your phone, texting Todoroki that you were on the way while the bus pulled up to a few more stops. On my way. Maybe another 5? See you there. Short, sweet, simple. Todoroki had always communicated in that way, smiling at his response before you spotted your stop ahead down the street. As soon as you disembarked the bus, you made your way towards a dance studio near Tatooine Station, spotting a strapping man leaning by the entrance, dressed in leisurely sportswear himself, his long hair tied up in a messy hair bun behind him. He was playing with his phone, most likely scrolling through, but the serious look on his face spoke some intense perusal. Todoroki! You called out, grabbing his attention and spotting a warm smile on his face. Though you both came from the same agency, Todoroki was on a business errand earlier that afternoon. You figured he had probably come straight from whatever he was taking care of. Funny though, you did recall him speaking with Midoriya and Ida more often than most in his downtime. Sorry for running late. You apologized as soon as you reached him with a smile. Not at all. I'm actually early. He reassured, reaching out and pressing a kiss on your temple. Hope you didn't have trouble getting here. Nah. Almost missed the bus, but so far my luck hasn't failed me yet. Todoroki chuckled while he took your hand, leading you up the stairs towards his dance studio he booked out for the afternoon. Exactly what are we doing? You asked. A dance lesson? No, sorry, I mean, was there a specific kind of dance we booked for? I already know you can waltz. I was hoping maybe that we could try Paso Doble. He answered, reaching the top of the stairs with you in hand. Paso Doble? I think you might find it fun. He reassured, taking hold of your hand in his large palm. I know I will. Love. You glanced away from him, feeling your cheeks warm a little from the look in his eye. Little nuances in his gaze and his expression took a while for you to recognize, but it made you blush whenever you saw an ounce of teasing and caring, whether by the tone of his voice or by the look in his eye. This time, he was definitely teasing. The glass door opened up to a large dance floor, lined with large mirrors along its walls. It looked as if Todoroki had hired the entire space for the night. Not much of a surprise on his part. He had always made sure it was only you and him, along with any other personnel required to make the experience enjoyable.
Ah, Mr. Todoroki!
Cooed the dance instructor in the room.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
All three of you stood motionless, the same realizations crossing each of your minds, staring at one another. Your eyes glanced between Todoroki and the instructor, gauging Todoroki's response to the situation at hand. There before you stood a man that Todoroki and yourself recognized almost immediately, his nervous grin suddenly appearing on his once calm expression while he anxiously lifted his hands up in defense.
You?
spoke Todoroki, his eyes a little derisive at the sight of the man before him.
It's lovely to meet you.
Spoke the instructor.
I wasn't aware the Todoroki I was assigned to was the one and only Shouto. Oh.
Though he was cleaned up from the ash and soot he was covered in back in those fires, the man's voice was very familiar. He was in anguish last the both of you had seen him, woken up from his waking slumber in that city block.
Aren't you the guy we rescued back at Hosu?
You asked, spotting a happy smile on the man's face upon being recognized.
That's right.
He confirmed.
Name's Soul. Never got to say thanks after all that.
It's alright.
You reassured, glancing up at Todoroki, who still held a very unimpressed look on his face.
I'm sure you had a lot on your plate with the commission after the ordeal.
Yeah, they asked so many questions. But nothing too distressing. I was able to come back to work after a few days.
Soul's gentle eyes turned to Todoroki, spotting the distant look in his, untrustworthy of the situation.
And, please forgive Rainmaker,
continued Soul, slightly embarrassed of the topic.
He tends to be a little insincere.
Interrupted Todoroki before you elbowed him lightly for his slight irritation.
I was going to say dramatic, but, I can see why you feel that way.
A warm smile beamed from Soul, and his face was filled with embarrassment. Despite Todoroki's mood, Soul, though awkward, was still positive about the situation. His smile continued to beam while he apologized and tried to make conversation. At least he was trying, you thought, seeing that his partner may have been the cause and source of Todoroki's decision to take this one-off lesson.
It's nice to meet you.
You finally greeted, attempting to change the subject lightly.
Small world.
Yeah.
Chuckled Soul.
Never figured I'd be able to see either of you again. But now that we're here, shall we start our lesson for today?
You peered at Todoroki, finding him still off-putting about the circumstance while he stared blankly at Soul.
Why the name?
He asked.
My name?
Replied Soul, a little confused about the question. His eyes furrowed at the thought before his smile returned, happier than ever.
Oh, you mean my pseudonym? I don't release my full name in public. It was actually the name I wanted to take up when I wanted to be a hero. Like you guys. Sadly, that story didn't turn out.
Really? With that kind of quirk, you could have been matched with some top heroes by now.
You commented, earning a glance from Todoroki, still unamused.
True, but I've been advised otherwise. Still, I enjoy what I do. Dancing is my passion. And to tell you the truth, I taught Rainmaker how to dance in the first place. So you're in good hands today.
Todoroki clutched onto your hand firmly, his expression still aloof. Where do we start? He asked with his head held high.
Right here, center stage.
Replied Soul accordingly.
I'll go through the basics and then we'll up the ante from there. After all, you wanted the crash course, right? Mr. Todoroki?
You felt the tug of Todoroki's hand while you were escorted to the center of the room, now facing him in place while Soul began to instruct, helping each of you place where your hands should be and followed you along with each and every step.
He's very passionate about his job.
You commented while you stepped in time, following Todoroki's lead. I guess. He replied, eyeing the man while he smiled and bobbed his head in time.
Don't tell me you're still mad about that mission.
Not necessarily.
He dryly answered.
I just wanted to spend more time with you on something we share dearly.
You smiled, realizing what he meant. Dancing was his way of showing his affection towards you ever since your academy days. Funny seeing how aloof and slightly off-putting he was at the start of the school year back in 1A, but that one afternoon out in the rain began a journey between the both of you. And you couldn't have felt any more happier.
No!
Chuckled Sol while he watched the both of you dance in time.
You're doing okay for beginners, but you're going to need to add a little pep in your step.
I have been, spoke Todoroki dryly.
Maybe for a ballroom dancer, but not for this kind of dance. You're leading, but not enough.
Sol stepped on his feet, approaching the both of you lithely before he offered his hand out to you. He spotted the slightly cross look on Todoroki's face, noticing the capricious glare in his eyes. You could even see the heat rising from his face, at least his left side, chuckling under your breath nervously at his simmering irritation.
May I?
Asked Sol, eyeing Todoroki with smiling eyes.
Maybe a visual demonstration could be of help.
There was a moment. A very quiet, awkward moment. Before Todoroki quietly sighed, releasing your hands. Not a word was said, only Sol's hand being offered to you before you cautiously took it, being pulled into his chest.
Now, just follow my lead,
warmly instructed Sol, causing you to look at him suspiciously.
Sorry. Rainmaker has picked up some of my habits.
Without another thought, Sol took you into the dance, each hop and step keeping you on your toes as he continued to up the speed little by little, circling the room. You peeked at his face while you followed his motions, still finding that smile. Not once had he been forward, vague, or flirtatious, unlike his partner. He was the complete opposite, allowing you time to catch up to him and to keep pace whether he slowed his step or not. He turned to you with a friendly grin, watching your arms move in time with his.
Well, you're a natural,
commented Sol.
Although, you're still very loose with your arms.
Well, I'm usually more fluid with my movements, especially because of my quirk.
You explained while you stepped in time with him.
Alright, water manipulation.
He continued.
I could see why, but again, I just want to apologize about Rainmaker's behavior. That's how he communicates with people, you know?
I don't really, but no harm, no foul.
You reassured. Still, that friendly smile was on Sol's face. He was particularly genuine in his replies. However, you've realized that your movements with him became second nature at this point, now in time. The heat that exuded from his body was immense, like a fire that refused to be put out from within. Was it his quirk manifesting? Either way, it was starting to overheat, realizing that it started to choke the air slightly. Your breath grew shallow, trying to take in as much coolness as you could before Sol twirled you away from him. Then suddenly, the air pressure and temperature dropped. A cold front hit your skin before your hands were taken into another's, his cold touch cooling you off from the heat before you were in Todoroki's embrace, continuing the dance that Sol started. You heard Sol chuckle out loud, counting in time and instructing from the other side of the room, his voice booming happily with the music that played around the dance floor. It was seamless, as if you didn't break from one person or another. Todoroki led you further and faster, directing you around the room. You felt all sorts of sensations. The coolness of Todoroki's touch plus the heat that emanated from his body with every step. Before he dipped you low, holding your legs and keeping you close to him. Your head hovered above the floor, feeling the strength of Todoroki's grip on you while a round of applause echoed in the room.
That was amazing!
Complimented Soul from across the room.
See? I told you a visual aid would help you out, Mr. Todoroki.
You were out of breath, your chest heaving while Todoroki pulled you back up onto your feet. He looked like he didn't break a sweat, although the heat in the room was something that couldn't be ignored. Its general direction coming straight from Soul.
I guess that's your session for today,
continued Soul.
If you're happy to continue, feel free to contact me personally. My details are on the notice board, just outside the door.
I'll think about it, replied Todoroki while he walked up to him, opening his hand out for a handshake.
Maybe not a good idea right now,
nervously replied Soul with a wry grin.
I'm a little overheated.
The chill of Todoroki's hand broke through the heat while he still held it out for a handshake, refusing to drop it. Sighing inwardly, Soul took it, the steam and hiss of each of their quirks rising from their touch. The night began to fall across Musutafu while Todoroki and you sat in a small ramen shop that was on the way to your apartment. You smiled at his usual choice of cold soba, even though it was close to winter, while you stuck with a warm meal for the night. Still, the dance lesson was nothing short of entertaining with a dash of awkwardness. That feeling followed you to this ramen shop, watching Todoroki almost in his own little world. Everything okay? You asked, spotting the blank look in Todoroki's eyes before he turned to you, swallowing his mouthful of soba. Of course. Everything's fine, he answered.
You don't look like it.
His heterochromatic eyes fell on you, still with some soba in his mouth before he slurped it, causing a slight chuckle from you at the sight.
I mean, you know, why do I get the feeling that you're uncomfortable about what happened back at Hosu?
You asked slowly, earning a sigh from Todoroki. I don't know, he honestly replied. It's like something came over me, and I couldn't control what I was feeling. Seeing that sidekick with you, it made me feel...
You waited for him to finish his sentence and yet he couldn't, his eyes drawing back to his bowl of soba before him. It looked as if he was ashamed about his actions, about the way he treated the situation and those involved in his matters. Todoroki felt something strange about his reactions to these kinds of situations, similar to how he would fight with this unrestrained feeling. It confused him somewhat in the heat of the moment. Shouto? Don't tell me you're actually, jealous?
You asked, confused about his stance in the situation. Huh? Jealous? I mean... He stuttered, trying to recompose his thoughts about everything up until now. I guess I am. You chuckled lightly while you enjoyed your meal, laying your hand atop his knee reassuringly.
Moments of his jealousy were far and few in between, but the intensity of his feelings could be felt from a mile away, you thought. You smiled at him while he still stared at his soba, still reflecting on his thoughts. "Come on, your soba's not going to get any colder," you piped, gaining a small smile from Todoroki. He hummed affirmatively before he returned to eating his meal. The both of you almost finished up at the ramen shop, with Todoroki paying for the meals in full before you began to wonder about his sudden scheduling for dance lessons. It was out of the blue, unlike Todoroki to do, and above all, despite the fact that there was tension earlier in the evening, the lesson went on without a hitch. Todoroki himself learnt the steps to the Paso Doble in a much quicker time than most. At least that was what Sol had mentioned before the both of you left his studio. Making your way to your apartment after a brief stop for dinner, you turned to Todoroki with a suspicious eye, earning a nonchalant glance from him. "Wait, was this whole dance lesson planned because our reunion is coming up?" you asked, realizing now where Todoroki's thoughts were leading to.
Possibly,
he replied vaguely, a hint of a smile appearing on his face. "Possibly? And you chose the Paso Doble to learn?"
I thought it would spice things up a bit.
"Oh, there was definitely heat in that room," you commented, remembering the core of Sol's body almost engulfing you.
You mean like this?
He teased, pulling you into his side before he kissed you atop your head, his hand cradling you while he did so. Though you had been together for years, these chaste moments always caught you off guard, feeling the rush of blood hit your cheeks in the chill of the night air.
I can feel you warming up already, love.
He commented with his smile against your hair. "Stop it," you pouted, burying your head into his chest while the both of you walked side by side. The thrum of his voice echoed in your ears while he held you close, keeping you warm in the chill. Thank you for tuning in to another fan fiction reading. If you enjoy what I do or would just prefer to fall asleep to my voice, please like this video and also please subscribe to my channel. I will be providing as much content as possible, so be sure to keep an ear out for any new content along the way. Thank you for visiting. I hope to hear back from you next we meet.